When God plants a dream inside your heart, He is not giving you a decoration for your imagination. He is giving you an assignment. Dreams are divine signals that remind you that your life is part of a much bigger story. They stretch you, challenge you, and call you into places you never believed you could walk. But a dream on its own is like a seed left on a shelf. It holds tremendous potential, but it only comes alive when watered by prayer. Prayer is the bridge between what God has promised and what you will one day hold in your hands. When you dare to dream and dare to pray over that dream, you invite heaven to step into your situation. So many people stop dreaming because life has disappointed them. They stop praying because they think their prayers are too small, too late, or too impossible. But God specializes in impossible situations. He waits for the moment when your strength runs out so His strength can take over. Every time you bow your head and whisper a prayer of faith, you are unlocking a door that no earthly power can close. You are giving God permission to move, to intervene, to rearrange circumstances in ways you cannot see yet. Prayer is not a last resort. It is the most powerful weapon you have. It is the key that unlocks God's unlimited power. Your dream may look delayed, but delay is not denial. God often works behind the scenes long before He reveals anything to you. Sometimes He stretches your faith so you will grow into the person who can handle the dream He plans to place in your hands. Other times, He allows obstacles to stand in your way so that when the breakthrough comes, you will know it was not your strength that opened the door, it was His. When you keep dreaming and keep praying, you are declaring with your life that you trust His timing more than your own. You trust His wisdom more than your understanding. You trust His power more than your limitations. There is no dream too broken for God to revive, no prayer too simple for Him to hear, and no life too ordinary for Him to use. Your part is to believe, to pursue, to pray, and to persist. Heaven responds to a heart that refuses to give up. And when your dreams are surrendered to Him and your prayers rise with faith, you will witness His power in ways that will leave you amazed, humbled, and forever changed. Here are 5 meaningful keynotes that summarize the whole speech. Dreams are divine assignments. God plants dreams in your heart not as decorations but as purposeful directions for your life, calling you into something greater. Prayer activates God's power. A dream without prayer remains dormant. Prayer is the bridge that connects God's promises with your reality. God works through delays and challenges. Delays are not denials. God uses waiting seasons and obstacles to strengthen your faith and prepare you for what He plans to give. Faith-filled persistence unlocks breakthroughs. Continually dreaming, praying, and trusting God signals your belief in His timing, wisdom, and unmatched power. No dream or prayer is too small for God. God can revive broken dreams, hear simple prayers, and use ordinary lives to reveal extraordinary power when surrendered to Him. When God places a dream inside your heart, it is never random and never accidental. It is intentional, purposeful, and connected to a divine plan far greater than you can fully understand in the moment. That dream may come as a quiet whisper, a sudden spark of inspiration, or a persistent longing that refuses to disappear. It may grow slowly over the years or ignite instantly like a fire that cannot be contained. But however it arrives, it carries weight, it carries meaning, it carries heaven's fingerprint. A dream from God is not given to entertain your imagination, it is given to awaken your destiny. It is a signal that God is inviting you into a story authored by His wisdom, powered by His strength, and designed for His glory. Many people treat dreams as optional hopes, nice to have, but not essential. But a God-given dream is more than a desire. It is an assignment. It is a calling wrapped in vision. It pulls you forward when your past tries to hold you back. It elevates your thinking when the world tries to shrink your faith. It tells you that you were created for more than routine, more than survival, more than simply going through the motions of life. A divine dream shakes you from spiritual sleep and reminds you that God still works through ordinary people who dare to believe in extraordinary possibilities. And yet, dreams often arrive in fragile form. They rarely make sense at first. They rarely look achievable. They often feel too big, too heavy, or too risky. That is because God's dreams are designed to stretch you beyond your comfort and into dependence on Him. If the dream were small enough to handle alone, you would never need His strength. If the path were easy enough to navigate on your own, you would never learn to trust His guidance. God gives dreams that are intentionally larger than your capacity, so you must lean on His supernatural ability. The size of the dream is proof that He intends to be involved in its fulfillment. Dreams also act as spiritual anchors. They keep you steady when life becomes uncertain. When storms arise, when people misunderstand you, when circumstances shift unexpectedly, the dream God planted becomes a reminder that your life is guided by more than what you see. It keeps you moving when discouragement tries to settle in. It keeps you focused when distractions attempt to pull you off course. It keeps you believing that there is more ahead than what you have already experienced. God uses dreams to keep your faith alive and your purpose intact. But dreams must be stewarded. They must be valued, protected, nourished, and pursued. Some people ignore their dreams because fear convinces them they are unqualified. Others abandon their dreams because the process becomes uncomfortable. But a dream from God requires perseverance. It requires courage to move forward even when the path is unclear. It requires the humility to admit you cannot do it alone. When you treat your dream as sacred, something entrusted to you by God, you begin to see it not as a burden but as a blessing. Most importantly, a dream from heaven connects you to God's heart. He gives dreams that align with His purpose, His character, and His mission in the world. He does not show you the entire plan at once, but He reveals enough to keep you walking forward with faith. As you respond to His leading, each step positions you closer to the future He designed long before you were born. The dream He gave you is evidence that He sees more in you than you see in yourself. It is His way of saying, I am not done with you. There is more I want to do through your life. A God-given dream is not simply something you carry, it is something that carries you. Prayer is not an optional addition to a dream. It is the lifeline that allows that dream to breathe, grow, and come alive. A dream from God is powerful, but it remains only potential until prayer activates it. Prayer is the spiritual engine that turns silent hope into visible reality. It is the way you align your heart with God's will, the way you open doors that human strength can never unlock, and the way you invite divine power into the journey you cannot complete alone. When you pray over your dream, you are not simply asking for help. You are acknowledging that what God started, only God can finish. Many people treat prayer like a last resort, something they turn to only when everything else has failed. But prayer was never designed to be the final option. It was intended to be the first step. Before the planning, before the effort, before the action, prayer builds the foundation for everything that follows. It brings clarity where confusion exists. It brings peace when anxiety tries to take over. It strengthens your faith when circumstances attempt to weaken your resolve. Prayer turns the impossible into the inevitable because it shifts your vision from what you can do to what God can do through you. One of the most incredible truths about prayer is that it moves the hand of God even when you cannot see movement. Your whispered prayers, your tearful prayers, your exhausted prayers, all of them rise to heaven. Not one is wasted, not one is ignored. When you bring your dream before God, you are placing it in the safest, most capable, most powerful hands in existence. And while you may not see immediate results, something always happens when you pray. God begins arranging circumstances, influencing hearts, opening opportunities, and preparing breakthroughs long before you are aware of it. Prayer works behind the scenes, even in the silence. Prayer also transforms you as much as it transforms your situation. When you consistently pray over your dream, you become spiritually aligned with God's timing, God's direction, and God's purpose. You begin to desire what He desires. You begin to see your dream not just as something you want, but as something He wants to accomplish through your obedience. Prayer gives you the discernment to know when to move forward, when to wait, and when to release something that was never meant for you. It sharpens your spiritual senses and deepens your trust in God's heart. Sometimes prayer does not immediately change your circumstances because God wants to change you first. He uses prayer to mold your character, develop your endurance, strengthen your patience, and expand your faith. Without prayer, a dream can become self-centered or fueled by human ambition. But with prayer, it becomes purified, refined, and aligned with heaven. Prayer keeps your dream anchored in God's will rather than drifting into your own desires. And when God sees a praying heart, He responds. Not always with speed, but always with purpose. Not always in the way you expect, but always in the way that brings the greatest blessing. Prayer invites His strength where you feel weak. It invites His wisdom where you feel lost. It invites His provision where you feel limited. When you pray, you are opening the door for supernatural intervention. Your dream may require resources you do not have, connections you cannot access, opportunities you cannot create, or strength you cannot muster. But prayer connects you to the One who lacks nothing. That is why prayer unlocks God's power. It is your declaration that you cannot accomplish the dream alone, but with Him, nothing is impossible. When God gives you a dream, He does not hand it to you fully formed or instantly fulfilled. Instead, He allows seasons of waiting, moments of silence, and stretches of difficulty that test the depth of your faith. These delays are not punishments, they are preparations. They are the hidden classrooms of spiritual growth where God shapes your character to match the calling He has placed on your life. Many people look at a delay and assume something has gone wrong. But in God's plan, delay is often the very thing that makes the dream possible. God uses time to strengthen you so the blessing will not break you. He uses challenges to build the resilience needed to carry the responsibility that comes with the dream's fulfillment. There are moments when the dream seems so distant that you begin to question whether you heard God correctly. You wonder if you misinterpreted His voice or misunderstood His plan. But God often speaks the loudest during the quietest seasons, not through noise, but through patience. In these periods of waiting, He teaches you endurance. He teaches you to trust Him even when there is no visible progress. He teaches you to anchor your faith not in what you see, but in who He is. When everything appears still, God is working beneath the surface, arranging details you are not yet ready to see. The silence is not a sign of His absence, it is a sign of His strategy. Challenges also play a significant role in shaping the journey towards your dream. Obstacles arise not to block your purpose, but to build your strength. When you face resistance, it forces you to rely on God's power instead of your own. Every setback becomes a setup for a greater display of His faithfulness. When doors close unexpectedly, it is often because God has a better door prepared, one that will lead you exactly where you need to be. What looks like a disappointment in the moment becomes a divine redirection when seen through the lens of God's purpose. He ensures that every difficulty pushes you closer to the dream, not further away. There are times when God allows obstacles to test your commitment to the dream He has given you. If the dream is easily abandoned, it was never anchored in faith. But when you hold on through trials, setbacks, and delays, you reveal that your trust is not in circumstances but in God's promises. This perseverance becomes the soil in which the dream grows. Just as a seed must push through darkness before it reaches the light, your dream must endure seasons of pressure before it blossoms. The struggle is not proof that the dream is dying, it is proof that it is developing. God also uses delays to protect you. Sometimes the dream is ready, but you are not. Sometimes the door is prepared, but walking through it too soon would cause harm instead of blessing. God sees the entire path, the hidden dangers, the unseen traps, the wrong people, and the wrong timing. His delays are acts of love, not neglect. When he says wait, it is because he is preparing something better than what you ask for. And when he says not yet, it is because his perfect timing will bring results your effort never could. Delay strengthens faith, and challenges sharpen character. Together, they shape you into a vessel capable of carrying the full weight of God's promise. What feels like a setback is often the very thing that positions you for breakthrough. When the dream finally arrives, you will see clearly that every delay had purpose and every difficulty carried meaning. God was working even when you could not see him. Faith-filled persistence is one of the greatest demonstrations of trust you can offer to God. It is the steady decision to keep moving forward even when the path feels slow, unclear, or overwhelming. Persistence is not loud, dramatic, or glamorous. It is often quiet and hidden, found in the moments when you pray again after nothing seems to change, when you take one more step after 100 steps produced no visible results, when you choose to believe God's promise even though circumstances argue against it. This kind of persistence reveals the depth of your faith. It shows that you are committed not only to the dream, but to the God who gave it. Every dream encounters resistance. Every calling faces seasons of struggle. The difference between those who see their dreams fulfilled and those who let their dreams fade is often a matter of endurance. Persistence is not about forcing something to happen on your own strength. It is about refusing to let discouragement silence your faith. It is choosing to stand firm in the belief that if God started something in your life, he fully intends to complete it. This unwavering trust pushes you forward when doubt tries to pull you back. It keeps you anchored when fear whispers that you should quit. Persistence turns faith into action and action into victory. There are times when discouragement comes not from outside forces but from within your own thoughts. Your mind begins to replay past failures, highlight your weaknesses, and magnify what feels impossible. But faith-filled persistence confronts these thoughts with truth. It reminds you that God's ability is not limited by your limitations, that his strength is made perfect in your weakness, and that he has a history of calling ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. When you persist, you declare that your faith is stronger than your feelings and your obedience is more important than your comfort. Persistence also positions you to recognize God's timing. When you refuse to give up, you remain spiritually sensitive to the doors he opens and the opportunities he provides. Some breakthroughs come suddenly, but many arrive gradually, step by step, prayer by prayer, act of obedience by act of obedience. If you abandon the dream too soon, you may walk away moments before the miracle is ready to unfold. Persistence keeps you planted long enough to see the harvest God has prepared. It keeps you attentive to the small signs of progress that reveal he is moving even when the full picture isn't clear yet. Another powerful reality about persistence is that it invites God to show his strength where yours runs out. When you reach the end of your abilities, that is where his power begins to shine. Your persistence becomes a platform for his miracles. It becomes an opportunity for him to open doors you could never open, provide resources you could never gather, and orchestrate outcomes you could never design. God honors those who refuse to surrender their faith. He responds to endurance with empowerment, to steadfastness with supernatural strength. Persistence also shapes your character. It builds patience, deepens resilience, strengthens spiritual maturity, and teaches you to rely fully on God rather than on quick results. God often allows the journey to stretch longer than expected because the process is part of the promise. What he develops in you through persistence is just as important as what he delivers to you. By the time the dream becomes reality, you will not only possess the blessing, you will have become the kind of person who can sustain and steward it well. When you choose to persist with faith, you are making a powerful statement that God's timing is perfect, His promises are trustworthy, and His power is more than enough. Faith-filled persistence does not eliminate challenges, but it ensures they will not defeat you. It keeps you aligned with God's heart, grounded in His Word, and ready for the moment when breakthrough finally arrives. There is something extraordinary about the way God works through dreams and prayers, because He specializes in taking what seems small, fragile, or insignificant and turning it into something powerful and life-changing. No dream that He plants within you is too broken for Him to restore, and no prayer you whisper is too simple for Him to hear. God does not measure your worth by the size of your accomplishments or the loudness of your voice. He looks at the posture of your heart. Even the quietest prayer, spoken in faith, reaches the throne of heaven with full force. Even the dream that feels buried under years of disappointment can be revived when placed back into His hands. God delights in using the ordinary to accomplish the extraordinary because it makes His power undeniable. Many people underestimate the dreams God has given them because they seem too small or too personal. They think their desire to help someone start something new or step into a different chapter is insignificant. But God often begins His greatest works with the smallest seeds. A single prayer can open a door. A single idea can shift a future. A single act of obedience can transform a life. What you see as small, God sees as the starting point for something magnificent. He is not limited by your resources, your background, your education, or your past. When a dream is surrendered to Him, it becomes infused with His power, His timing, and His purpose. There are moments when the dream feels too wounded to revive. Life has a way of crushing hope through disappointments, failures, rejection, or unexpected seasons of hardship. But God is a master at restoration. He specializes in breathing life into what looks dead. When you bring your broken dreams to Him, He does not dismiss them. He rebuilds them. He reshapes them. He restores them in ways that surpass what you originally imagined. And often, the dreams that survive seasons of breaking emerge stronger, purer, and more aligned with His purpose than they were before. What once felt like an ending becomes the foundation for a new beginning. God also hears every prayer, even the ones you think are too simple or too unpolished. He is not looking for perfect words. He is looking for an honest heart. When you pray with sincerity, even if all you can manage is a few quiet words, He listens, He responds, He moves. Prayer is powerful, not because of the one who prays, but because of the one who hears. A whispered prayer at midnight can shift circumstances by morning. A moment of faith can accomplish more than a lifetime of human effort. Prayer is heaven's language, and when you speak it, God draws near. And God loves to use ordinary people to accomplish His extraordinary plans. You do not have to be perfect, influential, or extraordinary for Him to use you. Throughout Scripture, He consistently worked through shepherds, fishermen, widows, young people, and outcasts. What mattered was not their resume, but their willingness. If your heart is surrendered, your faith is alive, and your spirit is available, God can use you in ways far beyond what you believe possible. He can turn your testimony into encouragement, your pain into purpose, your weakness into strength, and your ordinary life into a vessel for His glory. Nothing you bring to God is too small for Him to multiply. Nothing you surrender is too broken for Him to mend. Nothing you dream is too big for Him to fulfill. And nothing you pray is too quiet for Him to hear. He honors the heart that comes to Him with faith, and He responds to the life that is yielded to His purpose. When your dreams are entrusted to Him and your prayers rise with belief, heaven begins to move on your behalf in ways you could have never orchestrated alone. When dreams born in your heart meet prayers lifted in faith, something supernatural begins to unfold. God takes what you surrender, what you hope for, what you fight for in prayer, and He turns it into a testimony that reveals His greatness. The journey may stretch you, the waiting may test you, and the challenges may try to break you, but none of it is wasted. Every step, every tear, every prayer, and every trial becomes part of the story God is writing through your life. He is shaping you for the very thing He has prepared, and He is preparing the very thing He has promised. So hold on to the dream He placed within you. Keep praying when the answers seem slow. Keep believing when the evidence looks thin. Keep trusting when the road feels long. The God who begins a good work finishes it with power. The God who calls you also equips you. The God who hears your prayers also opens the doors no one can shut. In His perfect timing, you will see His hand move in ways that leave you humbled, grateful, and forever changed. Your dream is not forgotten. Your prayers are not unnoticed. Heaven is already at work. And when God finally brings everything together, you will understand why He made you wait, why He strengthened your faith, and why He taught you to trust Him more deeply. What He has planned for you is greater than what you imagined, and it will arrive with the unmistakable power of His presence.